That's why I don't know.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that one. That's a good one right there. I bet you hit big though.
Oh, yeah. Read. Say it again. Yeah. If you would, I'd ask that you would, as we call our meeting to order today, stand and join us in our invocation and our pledge of allegiance, led by Commissioners Andrews and Dave Martu, respectively.
Let us pray for health and for strength, for soundness of mind. We say thank you. For grace and for mercy, we say thank you. For a risen Savior, we say thank you. For wisdom and knowledge, and above all, understanding, as we deliberate today. We pray for peace in our community, for peace in our state, peace in our country, and peace around the world. For it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and welcome again to our regularly scheduled public meeting of the MPC, the Shreveport-Caddo Parish Metropolitan Planning Commission for public hearing agenda items. If you wish to make public comments on an application, we have MPC comment slips at the speaker stand next to the podium. For future notification purposes, it's very important that you fill out a slip and drop it in the box when you come forward to speak, please. Please state your full name, your mailing address, and zip code before addressing the board. We'll call each case on the agenda in order and hear first from the applicant, then from those who are speaking in favor. 10 minutes are allotted to the principal spokesperson and 3 minutes for each additional speaker. We will then hear from those wishing to speak against an application. Again, 10 minutes are allotted for the principal spokesperson and 3 minutes for each additional speaker. One representative of the application can then speak in rebuttal if so desired. After hearing a comment on each case, the board will then immediately deliberate and vote on that case before moving on to the next case on our agenda. Please note that when the board is deliberating, members of the public are not permitted to comment. Any member of the public may request a copy of the board's decision on a particular case by contacting our office at 318-673-6480 after 1 o'clock p.m. tomorrow, or by accessing our website at ShreveportCattleMPC.com. For consent agenda items and other agenda items not requiring a public hearing, public comments can be made upon request by filling out an MPC comment slip. If comments are requested for a specific agenda item, the chair will offer an opportunity for those comments prior to the commission taking action on said items. All of the MPC board decisions are subject to appeal to either the city council or the parish commission, depending on the location of the property in question. Please note that it is your responsibility to contact the appropriate governing body about their procedures as related to the matter you are concerned with. Copies of this document and the phone numbers to contact the governing bodies are available on the table next to the podium and in the entryway to this room. As a courtesy, ladies and gentlemen, please remember to turn off all cell phones while the MPC board is in session. The commission values your testimony and appreciates your compliance with these guidelines. Again, welcome. The next item on our agenda will be approval of our minutes from the February 7th, 2018 meetings. What is your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Andrews, a second by Ms. Smith to approve the minutes from February 7, 2018. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor vote yes, all opposed no. That item passes unanimously. We do not have any items on our consent agenda, so we will move to our public hearings. Our first case is item 6 on our agenda, case number CA-2-18, is a closure and abandonment. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this application?
My name is William Talton. I represent the Office of the City Engineer. The City of Shreveport received, William Talton, 505 Travis Street, Suite 300, 71101. City of Shreveport received petitions signed by over 95% of the property owners that abut the property, requesting the closure and abandonment for portions of 3 streets in the Manchester subdivision. These streets were never constructed. There are no utilities or public facilities within these dedications, and the city.
Excuse me,
Let me ask you a question. This seems like
You're on the wrong case.
CA2-18 is a
18.
Caddo Parish Department of Public
Oh,
Works.
excuse me.
I'm sorry.
I
knew something to
it.
When I heard 3 streets, it's like,
Yeah, so it's CA-2-18, which is Caddo Parish Department of Public Works, is the applicant. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
I'm not speaking on behalf of Caddo Parish, but Mr. Whittington was here a month ago, and the primary people that are requesting this are Progressive Bank and the Hudsons, who own the Hudsons own the property currently. Progressive Bank hopes to purchase it shortly, and then Dr. Wood and Mr. Irwin is here. We have reached agreement.
If you would.
I'm sorry, Tom Arsenault. I know better than that, Mr. Chairman. Tom Arsenault, 333 Texas Street, Suite 700, Shreveport, 71101. I represent Progressive Bank. Mr. Irwin and I have worked out the primary details of the private right-of-way that will govern the parties upon the abandonment, and we request that you move forward today so that we can get this to the commission. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions? Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Irwin?
Neil Irwin, attorney for Dr. Paul Wood, 415 Texas Street, Suite 101, Shreveport, 71101. Yes, thanks to the cooperation of Mr. Arsenault and his client, we are that close. And for purposes of the minutes, it's a couple of millimeters apart
one vote away.
on an agreement, on a servitude agreement originally drafted, well drafted by Mr. Arsenault with some now revisions of ours. We think that there is no benefit in delaying you further with this case and having it go on to the Parish Commission. We feel quite confident that will be worked out by the time it reaches the Parish Commission. And thank you all very much for your time and effort given to it.
Sure. Any questions? Mr. Irwin, is it safe to say that this means a little less than a light year?
Yes, sir. It certainly does. It is as close, I think, as you can come without saying that we have a final agreement.
Got you.
But thank you very much for your patience with all of this.
Thank you. Right?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
May I have Mr. Sweeney one quick question?
Sure.
Originally, that we're talking about the portion that was going to the 2 residents was going to be fully dedicated to them. Are they doing that, or are they just splitting it? Do you know?
My understanding, and Tom may correct me on this.
It's not that critical, but I was just
believe
curious.
that the bank will own the street, the private drive beginning where it intersects with Ellerby, goes back a certain distance beyond the bank property, and then at that point, then Dr. Woods will own the drive beyond that.
Along with Mr. Miller.
And Mr. Miller, okay, yeah.
But usually when you do it on dedication, it's split between the 2 property owners.
Yeah, typically, what happens is it'll split down the middle, kind of.
But they're
in
getting
this
it all.
situation, they're going to be taking, yeah.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Swapped. That's a better word for swapped.
All right.
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Chair.
Sure. There are no other questions.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair?
Second.
Have a motion by
Wait,
Mr.
did we
Young,
do any-
a second by Ms.
Did we do any
sorry.
opposed?
No, we didn't. I apologize. I saw them as 2 sides traditionally, so I'm sorry about that. Anyone want to speak either in favor or opposition to this application who has not had a chance to speak? Thank you.
I'll reiterate, Mr. Chair, motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Young, second by Ms. Smith. No questions. All in favor vote yes. All opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. Now, next case is case number CA-3-18, a closure and abandonment, City of Shreveport.
Now is your-
Now rewind.
Try again. William Talton, I'm here to represent the Office of the City Engineer, 505 Travis Street, Suite 300, 71101. The city has received a petition from over 95% of the people that abut the property to close and abandon portions of 3 streets in the Manchester subdivision. And these streets were never constructed. There are no public facilities or no utilities located within these street dedications. And the city of Shreveport has no opposition to close and abandon these streets.
All right. Any questions? All right. Hearing none, thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to this application?
My name is Walter T. Pipes at P.O. Box 38210, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71133. I'm not against it, I'm for it. And I probably need to be quiet because enough has been said, I think. This particular piece of property, I received 8 tax notices on this particular property. Some of you might have read, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor, and I felt that this needs to be bunched into 2 tax notices, if you can understand. So closing these streets and combining all this together would simply bring all that to a head. So thank you. And again, I see all over town the stickers that said, "We got your back." My wife and I started in Shreveport, Louisiana in business in '62 with $300. Shreveport has always backed us, and I just feel that they've always had our back. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
nice to
Thank you,
hear.
sir. Yeah. I've been in public service for a few years, and I can honestly say in either a council meeting or this commission meeting, it's the first time I've ever heard anybody say that. Thank you, sir. Can you come back next month?
Did we record that?
Anyone else here to speak in either favor or opposition? If not, I'll receive a motion.
Motion approved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Young, a second by Ms. Smith. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor vote yes, all opposed no. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Our next case is case number CA-4-18, cattle closure and abandonment, Caddo Parish Department of Public Works. Anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant? All right.
Mr. Chairman, Commission, Jimmy Whittington, Caddo Parish Public Works, 505 Travis, Suite 820, Shreveport. We received a request from the owner. He owns all of the lots within this. I believe he may even have a separate rezoning case going before you as we speak. This is an undeveloped road. There's nothing there but woods, and we have no objection to his request.
All right, thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor of this application?
Yes, sir. My name is Randall Lyles. I'm the owner of the property. I'm at 6270 Sand Hill Avenue in Shreveport, 71107. We're trying to look for future development down the road, and we're looking at C1. And that road's really not being used. There's really not a road, but anyway, we just want to try to, progress as we can in the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else speaking in favor of this application? Anyone to speak in opposition to the application? All right. Ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Andrews, a second by Mr. Joseph. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor vote yes, all opposed no. Passes unanimously. Our next case is case number CA-5-18, closure and abandonment, Caddo Parish Department of Public Works.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Jimmy Whittington again. This is a request by KCS. They own all the surrounding property up there. These are some very old stub street dedications. There is no street there, and as you can see, it dead ends into their yard, and we have no objection to this request.
All right. Does anyone else speak in favor of this application? Anyone in opposition? All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Andrews, a second by Mrs. Smith. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor vote yes, all opposed no. That passes 7-0. Our next case is case number CA-6-18, closing abandonment, Caddo Parish Department of Public Works.
You guys are on a roll.
I know, this is last. Y'all don't see it up there. This is to accommodate for a developer a re-subdivision. He's enlarging his lots a little bit, and so he wants to do a re-subdivision of, he needs to close and abandon this one stub street and
Are you on
Jimmy, you're on
4600
the next
North?
one. This is the other Kansas City Southern one. The
Oh,
Edson
Lakeview
Street.
subdivision.
sorry. Same deal, Edson Boulevard.
No, Simpson is the third one. All right, anyone else here to speak in favor of CA-6-18 for the Lakeview subdivision? Anyone in opposition? All right,
Motion to approve.
have a motion by Ms. Day
Second.
Martell, a second by Ms. Smith. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor vote yes, all opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. Our next case is case number CA-7-18, closing abandonment, Caddo Parish Department of Public Works, 8500 block of Simpson Road.
This is the last time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jimmy Whittington again. This, as I was saying earlier, this is to accommodate a developer. He initially did a subdivision plat that had a sub-street in it, and with these 6/10 of an acre lots, he is making the lots bigger, and in order to do that, he needs to close and abandon the stub street. There's no road built there, and we have absolutely no objection to this request.
Okay. Anyone else speak in favor of this application? Anyone in opposition? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen,
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
have a motion by Mr. Andrews, a second by Mrs. Smith. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor vote yes, all opposed, no. That passes unanimously. Our next case is case number P-2-18, a planned unit development and preliminary site plan, Moore and Associates. Andy?
I'm not Jimmy Whittington.
Good change of pace.
Andy Craig, Moore and Associates, 1324 North Hearn, Suite 301, here to represent the owner. We've been working on this case for probably a year. I'll give you a quick history on it. This is the old Allied Clark facility on Linwood Avenue, just below Mayo Road. It's a welding and fabrication facility that closed and was abandoned. And according to MPC, the staff's records and all, it was abandoned for more than a year. So whereas it had grandfathered in as industrial, all the surrounding property around it was residential. So it was after a year that it's closed, as I understand it, it was converted to R1 zoning. And so my client bought the property, trying to put it back in commerce, and like I said, we started a year or so ago, and what we found out was that under the old zoning code in the parish, there was really no way to put this back into commerce without industrial zoning. And y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because this came from their research and recommendations. And so we actually had to wait until December when the parish passed the UDC to be able to get a way to get this zoned so that our client could market it as industrial, get it properly zoned. And the way to do it was, as you see, the C1 PUD with an industrial use for steel fabrication, all that. So anyway, being a PUD, we had to give some amenities and also ask for some ordinance relief, neither of which were real great, but this is a site plan that we've ended up with. And the staff have been very good to do the research and figure out how we could get this going. And we finally reached a point after several meetings and figured out how to meet all the requirements and still keep it in, get it going into commerce. So we're here today before you with request to do the C1 PUD request. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Did you say C1 PUD?
C1 PUD.
C1 PUD.
It is.
What, I said R1 PUD, C1 PUD.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that will be able to accomplish the use, and it is, takes into consideration the residents around it, to accommodate that. So it's not as serious a issue as having the industrial zoning there, right in the middle of all that residential. And I will point out that, as I understand it, this plant precedes the residential development around it. It was just because of the year lapse that it was out of, that was not working, that it reverted to the R1. Otherwise, it would have grandfathered in with the industrial. Anyway, we wouldn't be here today. But because of that and the UDC and all those things that happened last year, we're here before you with this case.
All right. Mr. Young?
Andy, the only thing I think that we were advised of since this drawing was the center driveway needs to come out, and that's on the recommendation of
I'm sorry?
the center driveway
Right.
of the three needs to come out and just have the two, and your client is amenable to that.
We didn't really think it was going to be necessary. The parish requested it to be abandoned. Three that close together is not normal, but there is a overhead door there on that side. We thought it might be needed, but anyway, we've agreed to close that.
I just want to make sure you agree, because that's the only thing I knew that was different from the site plan from what is.
Right.
Okay.
That is a stipulation there, and we've agreed to that stipulation.
That's all I need. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, real quick, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Joseph?
Good afternoon. With the exception of the driveway, as I read through the package, there are a number of stipulations. Your client is prepared to adhere to those stipulations going forward?
To
adhere to the staff recommendations?
Yeah.
And none of those pose any obstacles that you guys can't handle?
I'm not sure I understand.
In other words, there are a number of stipulations here from the staff in addition to that driveway. I'm sure
Yes.
y'all on board with all
Right.
those?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
The screening fence, the parking spaces, the landscaping, the gating on the south side there, along Buckley, all those things. And of course, we asked for some ordinance relief on a few things also, which were traded off.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Craig. Is there anyone else here to speak in support of this application? All right. Anyone in opposition? All right. Seeing none.
Mr. Chair, I'll
Yes.
make a motion to approve with the stipulations as printed.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Young to approve with stipulations, a second by Mrs. Smith. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor vote yes, all opposed, no. All right, that passes unanimously, thank you. Our next case, final case on this agenda, case number P-5-18, is a zoning request from I Architecture. Is there someone here to speak on behalf of the applicant? All right. Anyone to speak in favor of the application? Anyone to speak in opposition?
You can take opposition if they're here.
All right. That's a public hearing.
Devil's advocate, Mr. Sweeney's for and Mr. Jean's against. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just going that way, so.
We won't hear from them. So,
Well, as you can see from that staff report, because of the compatibility issue with that neighborhood, staff is recommending to you an alternative zoning of C1 in place of the C2 zoning, which will allow for the dental office and the restaurant. If the applicant wishes at some point in time to have a restaurant that has outdoor seating, they have a pathway to get that through a special use permit. So that's how the staff recommends to you that this be amended accordingly.
So what do we do in this case? Do we?
Well, I realize the applicant's not here. You can still make a recommendation and still make a decision on this today, if you would.
Or defer it?
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve. The
Proceed.
recommendation with the stipulations.
So I have a motion by Mr. Andrews to approve as recommended, including stipulations, the staff recommendation.
Second.
So I have a second by Mrs. Smith. Questions?
I don't,
If you approve it, then they'll get what we tell them. If they have an issue with it, they're always welcome to come back and do something different. But, you know, they know it's on the agenda.
Mr. Windsor, the only thing you didn't say was the C1 as opposed to the C2 in your recommendation. I know the staff, but they're specifically after C2, so I would specify that in your
I'd
recommendation.
like to specify C1 in the place of C2.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews.
Right. So have a motion by Mr. Andrews to grant the request of a to grant a C1 in place of the requested C2. With the stipulations, and a second by Mrs. Smith.
You got another mic?
Right, question? Yeah, opened up, didn't it?
Yeah.
No, here, no questions, all in favor vote yes, all opposed no. I guess it's the people that makes it like that, all right? Thank you so much. That will end our public hearings. Next on our agenda is old business, number 14. Any old business? Show anything? Any new business? Number 15?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. We're moving so rapidly that I'm losing pace with it here just a little bit. Okay, under new business, just real quickly, I would like to inform everyone, it appears as though that we have a My Permit Now presentation scheduled with the mayor and the CAO, and along with some of the key city departments on the 26th of March, in which the folks from Houma, Louisiana will come back up here to make a special presentation just for the mayor and for Brian Crawford.
Can you speak into your mic a little bit closer?
I'm sorry. Are you not hearing me?
Now.
Now you can hear me. Okay, you want me to repeat that? Okay, My Permit Now, as you recall, was one of the things that we've been trying to get the city and the parish to do in coordination with us, the new software that will make things a lot more transparent and easy to follow in terms of permits, applications, property standards, you name it. And so basically what we're doing is we've scheduled a meeting on the 26th of March with the mayor and the CAO, in which we will have also representatives from the city departments at that meeting, in which a special presentation by the folks from Houma, Louisiana will come up, make that presentation, and answer questions. This idea is gaining a lot of momentum, and there's a lot of interest, and we're at that stage where we need to approach the decision makers to help get this thing rolling, and I'll keep you posted on our progress, but I think this is a major benchmark to be able to get to this stage. So,
Mr. Sweeney?
yes.
They use it, we know it's My Permit Now, but they actually call it something
Well, it's
different?
actually called My Government Online, and I always refer to it as My Permit Now because that's the part that I always was most familiar with. But there's actually other components that are called something else. But My Government Online is actually the true full name of what we're talking about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to that website, there's a link to My Permit Now.
Okay.
Like an
No, that's technically kind of old business. I was just going to follow it. But when you go to new business, I just was going to mention
what's the meeting?
which meeting you're talking about.
26.
Okay, now that's a meeting that would be at 10:15 a.m. But that's the mayor and Brian and the city department heads. So you don't have to worry about that meeting.
Okay.
But I'll follow up and give you a report on the outcome of that. On new business, just a reminder that out of the courtesy of our board members, we're going to have a mixer, a social mixer with the staff and board at the Chamber of Commerce on the 22nd of March between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. And this is an opportunity for the board members along with our staff to get to know each other and to find out what we do and and to build bridges of relationships and to be able to serve our community even better. So that will be, mark that on your calendar for March the 22nd. That is a Thursday.
I sent out an email to everybody except Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, I hope you.
You're getting yours by mail, Miss Bessie, so you probably in your box today.
Oh, I have it.
Oh, you got it. Okay, good.
Yeah, got it
And
today.
if y'all see Dale or Ronnie since they're not here, please mention it because it's really important for, I think, for all 9 of us to be there to show the staff or to demonstrate to the staff how important it is to us. So I would hate for anybody to be absent unless you know, obviously you have a serious
Sure.
reason not to be there. But.
The other thing I want to mention that on that same day, March the 22nd, it's turning into a busy day, is the Master Plan Committee meeting. This will be our first meeting for 2018. It took quite a while to get all the appointments. I finally got the parish's appointments back about a week ago. And so now I have the cities as well as the MPCs. We will have our meeting starting at 12 o'clock to 1:30 on that day, March 22nd. And we'll be providing lunch as a courtesy starting around 11:45. And so those of you that are members of the Master Plan Committee, I truly encourage you to be there so we can talk about the things that we're going to try to do in 2018. Last thing I want to mention to you is that April is it's coming around again. You know, every 6 months we typically will have our lunch meeting off-site, and so we will be having our lunch meeting in April, which is April the 4th. Will not be here, but at a restaurant. Typically it's Chianti's, but it may be some other place depending on where we end up going. So we'll be communicating that to you over the next several weeks as to where we end up doing. We'll go there for lunch and then come back here for our meeting. And that's all I really have to say as far as new business is concerned.
All right?
Mr. Chairman, may I make one comment?
Mr. Andrews?
Let's give Miss Allison that every time we voted, it was the machines were ready. So thank you very much.
Good study.
Great.
Yeah, we should eat at the new restaurants that we approved.
Well, we'll try to do that. We'll try to do that.
Taco Bueno.
You can't get it.
All right, so I don't see any other matters. I'm not aware of any other matters to be reviewed by the commission. I will forego any comments myself. If any other board member want to have comments, we do have an executive session scheduled, but based on our agenda, this is the time for chair, board members' comments. Anybody before we do that? All right. Hearing none, our next item is an executive session in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statute Section 42.16. The Metropolitan Planning Commission will recess into an executive session. While in executive session, no votes will be taken, no decisions in line with that will be made, and we will ask the appropriate staff members to join us in that executive session, and we will recess for that. We will reconvene at the end of that executive session and conclude the remainder of our agenda.
And
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the meeting will be in the conference room behind.
Immediately behind us, all right? We don't take any,